We welcome all you to the first webinar of Youth for Climate Action Volunteer Force. Climate change is an important issue in Sri Lanka, and its effects threaten to impact both human and natural systems and islands' biodiversity, including its marine ecosystems and coastal coral reef environments. These impacts cause disastrous consequences affecting agricultural productivity, causing natural disasters like floods and droughts, increasing the spread of infectious illness, and finally undermining the living standards. So this is a crucial moment where adequate and immediate action is needed to face the climate crisis. Youth for Climate Action is a Sri Lankan youth approach to climate action in parallel. With COP26 UN Climate Summit taking place in November 2021, we are attempting to play our role and raise our voice while introducing the activities we had planned for COP26. We will be participating to COP26 UN Climate Summit and also People Summit in November 2021. There we will be addressing a wider audience organized in climate movement and social justice, including sympathetic people for climate justice at national and international levels. We will be needing more and more help from all responsible citizens from Sri Lanka to raise our voice in this global platform to stand for climate justice and pay our rent for our Mother Nature. You can join this mission on climate action through our Google site and social media to play your role as a responsible young citizen. So today we are marking the first webinar of our Youth for Climate Action Volunteer Force. It's on underutilized crops for enhancing food production and food resilience with climate change. I'll hand over the session to Dr. Chandi Mariaratna, the Program Coordinator of Youth for Climate Action. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, Marsha. Can somebody enable me to share videos, please? Right, thank you. No, not yet. It's not working. It's okay. Good morning to all and warm greetings from Sri Lanka to our international audience. And congratulations, Youth for Climate Action Group, for your impressive progress. So while these can be used as to enhance food and nutrient security and maybe to improve income for rural communities, these can be strategically used to create climate resilience in farming systems. So that makes these crops, NUCs or NUCs, a very relevant topic in the agenda of COP26. So we have invited a panel with vast knowledge and experience in this field for this discussion. I'll briefly introduce them, but you can find more details in our website. Professor Kadambat Siddiq, he's a Hackett professor from University of Western Australia, and he's a leading scholar in this field. I'm sure most of you have read him. He's a UN FAO ambassador for pulses. And we have Dr. Ajanti De Silva, the Director General of Department of Agriculture. We know Department of Agriculture has the mandate for R&D in agriculture in the country. We've invited Professor Terence Madhujit, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Peradeniya, but also he has a long publication record in food and nutrition, including some highly cited work on NUCs. Dr. Gamini Samarasinghe is an additional secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture. He'll talk to us about his experience in leading and coordinating community-based national programs targeting NUCs. Representing the industry, we have Mr. Randiva Malalasuriya. He's the Chief Executive Officer of National Food Cluster of CBL Group, a leading private sector company. Finally, we have Mr. Sampath Aberatna, a technical specialist to the UNDP on climate smart agriculture. So I'll brief on the structure of this discussion. We'll invite each speaker to share their views and visions with us. And at the end, we'll take a few questions. If time permits, we can have a discussion at the program, end of the program, we'll see. But if you want to raise a question, please raise hand and speak out, or type your question in the chat box or a Q&A box, which should appear on the bottom of your screen. So without taking much time, let me invite our first speaker, Professor Siddique, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I know the time is short, so I'm going to talk about the future smart food, or neglected and underutilized crop. How can we mainstream within the next 20 minutes? So again, your screen is blocking me here. Okay, so is it clear? All clear there?
Yes, sir, please.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to talk about very briefly the global hunger and malnutrition, and then the prevalence of unhealthy diets. So we got malnutrition means overnutrition and undernutrition. Before going to my presentation, this is where I'm coming from, University of Western Australia, situated very close to the city of Perth, near the Swan River. And Chandima was one of our students here. We are a very internationally recognized university, top 100 in many rankings, excellent collaboration with the industry, and also we are among the group 8 universities in Australia, which is the leading universities, research-intensive universities. We got Nobel Prize in 2005 for medicine, Professor Barry Marshall, for inventing Helicobacter pylori causes the stomach ulcer. He's still a clinical professor here and doing a great job. We are ranked overall 100 in the world, which is quite good for a small university. And if you look at the last column, we are number 16 in the world in agriculture science and number 1 in Australia. Can you still hear me, Chandima? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, please. I will occasionally call because the internet probably getting cut me down. Fine. So I think most of what I've been going to talk about, you can download the 2020, the food security, the state of food security and nutrition in the world by FAO. But the main points are, there are something like now nearly 820 million people globally hungry. And in fact, it is exceeded because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're talking about another 150 to 180 million people. And are we going to achieve the zero hunger, SDG 2 by 2030? By the rate of it, we're not going to achieve. This is my prediction. So we have a lot of hungry and malnutrition people, particularly children under 5, especially in South Asia, East Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. And this is one of the papers we published in Nature Plants early this year. Again, you can see, I don't have the data for Sri Lanka, but pretty close. India shows 38% stunting. Stunting means low height in relation to weight, and also wasting is about 21%. Nearby country, Nepal, is also pretty bad. Basically, we have a problem. If you look at it globally, there is now 821 million people hungry. They're growing hungry one day or the other. But COVID-19 pandemic has created another dent, about 150 to 190 million more people. So we are pretty close to now the 1 billion mark. So that's largely in this South Asia and also in Sub-Saharan Africa. In addition to that, we have a lot of children under 5 years age, stunted and wasted. I think the situation will be the same in Sri Lanka, but it is largely because of the hidden hunger. The rice consuming places, including Sri Lanka, so much of rice we consume. The reason behind is that the Green Revolution has pushed for 3 major crops: rice, wheat, and maize. It was okay at that point of time. So a lot of the traditional crops, neglected crops, were replaced by the modern cultivars of the so-called 3 crops. These 3 crops contribute 60% of the intake of calories in the world. So, for example, the rice-eating countries, average consumption is about 100 kilograms of rice per person per year. For example, Bangladesh is about 250 to 270 kilograms of rice. So the hidden hunger is basically insufficient intake of micronutrients and vitamins. For example, vitamin A, and also zinc, iron, and so on. So there is a huge problem, imbalanced diet. In addition to that, overeating certain food is causing to obesity and overweight. Globally, there are some 39% of the adults are obese. So this is a big issue. So what can we do? And on the top of that, we have the climate changes affecting our production system. That is drought and flash floods and the heat waves are affecting. So it's going to be pretty hard for us to reach the Sustainable Development Goal, without hunger, by 2030. So what I call the neglected and underutilized crops, these crops are once upon a time grown on the landscape. You can have various examples. Take amaranth, leafy vegetables, and so on. So the United Nations FAO, we convened a meeting a few years ago and identified some what we call neglected and underutilized crop or smart crops, and I've got a publication on that. So basically, you can go into Sri Lanka and look at what are these future smart crops. They are nutritionally dense, they're climate resilient, they're adapted to the local environment, so they can withstand some of the harsh environment. Take, for example, millets. It is a group belong to the cereals. They are adapted to drought, high temperature, nutrient-poor soils. They produce nice grains with a lot of micro and macronutrients, fiber, and they can also grow fast, so they fit in the system. Take, for example, taro, which is very much grown in Sri Lanka. They can take waterlogging, low-lying areas and produce tubers rich in number of macro and micronutrients. Take drumstick in your case, and the leaf and the flowers and the pods can be eaten, and they give quite a lot of iron and other things. So we have all this kind of crop in the system, but they are not being grown largely because of the government policy. The government was supporting mostly the so-called the three major crop, rice, wheat, and maize. I'm not saying we should not support. The other group is legumes. Many legumes are still orphan crops. They are full of proteins and vitamins and also folate. They fix nitrogen, so we need to bring them back into the system. So what can we do? The government has to really change the policy and develop quickly an audit on what are the important future smart food crops in each country, in your case, Sri Lanka. Then look at a group of people from the Department of Agriculture, Health, etc., develop whatever knowledge is available, and a mission mode approach, translate that knowledge to the farmers, farming groups, etc., buy back some of the products and serve them in the school breakfast program, midday meal program, and also buy for the army and soldier, which is a large budget for the government. All on a sudden, we can have a market. Quinoa, for example, used to be the crop of the Andean Americans for 5,000-6,000 years. Now it's a very popular all over the world because of the promotion made by UN and others. Pulses, again, lentil used to be a minor crop. I know your country imports a lot of lentils from Canada and Australia and so on. So all in all, what I'm saying is that look at what kind of crops, nutritionally dense, climate resilient, locally adapted, can be easily eaten without any negative effect. Then promote them through a program, and then have women empowerment where one could have value adding, and then mainstream them into the thing. We have good example, chia. We have examples like kiwi fruit, for example, was a wild plant. It was introduced from China to New Zealand by a priest, and it is one of the I will send you the PDF and the link for people to share that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the audience? We can take few questions because we are running out of time.
And also, I'm happy to come back at the end if you don't mind. I don't know what you send me a message. I'll come back because yeah, the internet is the problem. I think that is the problem from that end, your end.
Yes, so we can do that. I think that would be much better because after listening to all the talks, maybe people would have more questions.
Yep, send me a WhatsApp or whatever just well before so that I can come back.
Right, so thank you.
And again, my apologies. I prepared a talk, but maybe we'll do it next time properly.
Yes, it's, we also feel very sorry about that.
That's okay, not a problem. But I just conveyed my message, what I could do.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, and all the best for you all.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Take care.
We'll get back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Neglected and underutilized crops. NUCs are non-commodity crops, once popular but today neglected by users for a variety of agronomic, genetic, economic, social, and cultural factors. Can we find solutions in NUCs for the climatic, economic, and social issues we face today? We collected information using a structured question-based survey and by interviewing farmers in most part of Sri Lanka to understand their view, vision, and NUC-based solutions they have. Selected NUCs:
the cereals: undu, sesame, cowpea, finger millet, black gram, green gram, and different rice varieties. Tubers: turmeric, manioc, ingurala, artichoke, rajala, sweet potato, taro, ginger, and rattle pods. The vegetables: long beans, brinjals, pumpkin, niramolia, bitter gourd, bitter tipatu, and cucumber. The fruits: amarella, banana, pomegranate, jujube, tamarind, wood apple, veralu, palu, veera, cashew, star fruit, mangosteen, ramachi, soursop, rose apple, canistel, sour orange, guava, pears, and nasnara.
දරුවෝ ළමා කාලේ මම බත් කරනවා බත් වෙරි කරලා ඒ ඇඳි ගාන ගන්න. ඒකට යන්නේ බොහෝ දුරට මේ සුවඳ පාල්. සුවඳ පාල් ගන්න හේතුව තමයි මේකේ තන්තු ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි. දියවැඩියාට ගුණයි කියලා කියන්නේ තන්තු ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි. තන්තු ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි නිසා දෙලීම ඉක්මනින් වෙනවා. මේකේ පරිවර්තන මට්ටමේ උපු කරලා තියෙනවා. පොඩි දරුවන්ට මේක දුන්නාම සහ ඕනෙම වයසක කෙනෙක් මේක කවම පොඩි වයසේ නම් ගොඩක් දුර මේක කටහඬ මිහිරි වෙනවා.
Inputs are important when cultivation, but NUCs need less input. Fertilizers and chemicals. Most farmers use organic manure or didn't use any inputs, especially in the wet zone. But some NUC farmers use chemical fertilizers for various purposes. But both organic and chemical pesticides are used by most farmers. Seeds and planting materials. In some cases they have seeds or else both planting materials. Machinery and equipment. Farmers used different type of machinery, both simple and complex, such as horticultural tools, tilling machines, etc. Machines used specially for large-scale NUC lands. Most work is done manually and farmers use family labor. Sometimes they hire laborers also. What are the issues?
September, nanti video patang kan aku berdua aja, mahal kan. Itu Oktober awalnya itu clear. Jadi Januari, Februari, Maret, Maret tu nih, Maret tu nih itu bank. දැන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ජනවාරි වෙනකොට පැය ඉවර වෙන්න ඕන. ඒකට අවශ්‍ය ඉඩ ප්‍රමාණය නැහැ.
තුන්ගෙන සත්තුත් වෙන අර රිලව් ඉන්නවා වැඩියෙන්. පුරායි රිලවයි තමයි වැඩියෙන්.
மிளகா வந்து நாங்கள் முந்தி நிறைய செய்கிறது. இப்போ முந்தி இலங்கையில் உள்ள செத்தல் தான் எல்லாரும் பாவிக்கிறது. அப்போ வந்து இப்போ அப்படி இல்லை, இறக்குமதி செத்தல் தான் பாவிக்கிறோம். அது காரணம் என்னென்னா இந்த மிளகாய்க்குரிய அந்த நோய், வைரஸ் நோய் வந்து பாரிய அளவில் தாக்கி இப்போ வவுனியா மாவட்டம் முன்ன விவசாயத்தில் செத்தல் செய்கையில் முன்னுக்கு இருந்தது. இப்போ அது கைவிடப்பட்டு செத்தல் அந்த மிளகாய் செய்கையை குறைஞ்சிருக்கு.
குரங்கு, யானை, அணில் அதால் எங்களுக்கு பாரிய சேதம் ஏற்படுது. அதுகளை கட்டுப்படுத்த முடியாமல் போகுது. ஒரு சில இதை கொண்டு நாங்கள் செய்தாலும் வர்த்தக ரீதியில் சந்தைப்படுத்தவும் முடியலை, அவ்வளோ விலைகள் கிடைக்கிறது இல்லை. அதனால் நாங்கள் இதை அதிகமாக வர்த்தக நோக்கத்தில் செய்யாமல் எங்களுக்கு தேவையான அளவுக்கு செய்து கொண்டு வரோம்.
What about if farmers get a chance to grow NUCs? They said, definitely, yes of course, maybe, have to think little. Most answers were there. But overall, they said yes. But when conditions become favorable and under the great assistance, what do the farmers need the most?
මොනවකවත් ජලය නැත්තම් අපිට වගා කරන්නත් බෑ. ඒකට ආණ්ඩුව ප්‍රතිපත්තියට ඉන්දුවක් ගන්න ඕන. ඒකෝ අඩු වේදම් සෝලා පැනල් වගේ එහෙම වගාලින් ප්‍රමාණයක් හදලා ඒ වගේ දාලා ජලනල පද්ධතියක් දාලා මේ ඉඩම් වලින් උපරිම ප්‍රයෝජන ගන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රමයක් හදන්න.
Technology integration to improve farming practices such as improved varieties, quality seeds. Technology for farming and processing, practical new appliers such as post-harvesting techniques to overcome pests and diseases. Market access and incentive structures to empower smallholder farmers. Financial solutions from government and flexible regulations. Got an interesting output from our research. As we get, farmers grow NUCs in these percentages. In Farmers' Wave, these are the problems. Their purposes. What solutions they have suggested. Cast a vote for NUC crops, for kind of world you want with agricultural sustainability and secure foods. Alternatives are best for sometimes like NUCs. These are ours. Find values, get secrets, and together rise for a better world.
To create opportunities for students and youth to engage with the COP26 agenda. And that was one of the outcomes. The video was produced by a group of undergraduates from the Southeastern University. They talked to the farmers to get their views, their vision on NUCs, NUCs. Now, I think that brings out a strong message. All farmers wanted to grow. They have interest in NUCs. I think our next speaker will address some of these issues. Over to you, Dr. Jayantha. I believe you are here with us. Dr. Jayantha. Can you hear us? Your mic is muted, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you want to switch on your videos and share your screens if you have, or maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, because I was trying to get it into my what do you call the desktop and start the presentation. Still, there is some problem with that one. If it is not going to initiate, I will just elaborate what I want to say, tell you all. But otherwise, if it appears, I will be able to share the presentation also with you all. Let me first thank you for the for the organizers for giving me an opportunity to tell you about how we feel about this whole with the underutilized crops, and of course how we see about this thing, and then the initiations from the national agriculture policy regarding this issue, how we are going to what priority we have given on this in terms of hopefully I will be able to share my Hello, can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Can you please put it in a slide mode? We can see it though.
Okay, yeah, let me do that one also. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Fine. Perfect.
Yeah, that I want to tell you is national policy and incentive structures in place for, either we neglected or underutilized crops in prioritization and enhanced production. So if you take this one, if we take the national agriculture policy, now almost, now with the new government, the vision of national prosperity and splendor. So we, the president, especially in agriculture sector, he wanted to have a firm national agriculture policy in place to steer the agriculture in Sri Lanka. So there he has already appointed through the. Just give me 1 minute. Hello. Oh, sir. One thing I got telling you, we not part in some manner. Science faculty presentation that come like you rich coming in myself. Sorry, sir. Mangit Hari. Pull on so mangin night. We not part in some okay. Yeah, sorry, because I just wanted to have a communication with the Honorable Minister. Now with the National Agriculture Policy, so we have identified the need of the food and feed, the importers, and the sustainable food security with the improvement of food quality. So there we have identified the vision as the sustainable food security to achieve national prosperity. So where the mission we have identified was the vision to be achieved by the creating social acceptance sustainable in Sri Lanka through a global competitive agriculture production, processing and marketing mechanism. So with that, we have identified 10 thematic areas. So where we can just see the crop production and productivity, input management, advanced technologies, food safety and quality management, eco-friendly operations, agro enterprises and marketing, producer empowerment, climate resilient and other risk management, knowledge management, and all these things. Where we have set up 15 policy statements. So if you take the national, the neglected or underutilized food, especially, we have identified in different thematic areas. So if you take this thematic area, the input management, we have identified as one of the interventions that we have to see is to establish village seed banks for conservation and sustainable utilization of traditional germplasm. So we want to utilize whatever the available germplasm which is available as neglected or underutilized to take it for our food basket or to use it for our national domestic food support. And then, of course, to see the promote and adoption of seed and plant of local origin. So we just wanted to see whatever the least priority areas to move into the food basket. And then, of course, to food safety and quality management for the thematic area number 4, we have seen encourage the use of non-traditional food resources. And then, of course, for ecosystem-friendly operation, we have seen the ensure availability of local input seed and planting material through the establishment of focused breeding program using traditional germplasm. And then again to establish village seed banks for germplasm conservation. So like that, we have all identified in different thematic area and identify niche market again. And of course, we all know this using this neglected or underutilized crops is one of the area when it comes to the climate resilience. So we have all identified all these areas. So if you take through the food crop sector and all, we have about nearly 3 million hectares approximately with all the utilized and unutilized crops and major fruits, banana and all this, and I don't want to tell you all. And so more than 60 varieties of underutilized food crops that are grown particularly in marginal environment, according to the literature what I have identified. So with the Department of Agriculture, we have identified many underutilized foods in Sri Lanka, and I have just put some of these. And so we can see we can make processed jams, jellies, preserved candies, confectionaries, and all that with whatever we have. So see how we can utilize this one, or we can value add all these things in Sri Lankan context and increase the global population. So we can really give all this rich genetic diversity with for the resilience of further food crop industry in Sri Lanka. So in this aspect, I think, so we are much better and we have a very diverse environment. And of course, we have many underutilized, so neglected food crops, which we feel especially with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Department of Agriculture should get a lead role to have, put them into the diet and see that we will be promoting these, will make them more consumer friendly. And of course, commercial can be considered a powerful means of achieving sustainable development goals, SDG 2, to reduction of poverty and malnutrition. So I think it is what our intention is for that matter. So as policies or strategies to enhance production, we are doing awareness and demonstration programs. We are giving some incentives for people, and we are giving expansion programs, of course, through the Department of Agriculture and some other enterprises and with missions and value addition opportunities. And of course, we are looking for markets. So with that, I just want to tell you how we have gone through this one and the policy interventions, and of course, the support which we are thinking as the government to keep in place to support this initiative. Thank you very much. And I had to confine for a small time because I have another meeting to attend. So thank you very, very much once again to giving me this opportunity to address you at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate your commitment and also the information you provided, because it's very useful to continue with this discussion. And also, I know how busy you are, and thank you very much for giving this time.
Okay.
Will you be able to answer a question or two?
Yeah, I hope that after this meeting again, I will join if I can. Okay. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll let you know, sir. Once when the other is finished, we'll let you know, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. Okay.
Yeah, I now, of course, again, we want to open up for a small video produced by the students. This is about some of the research highlights from the Department of Agriculture. The Field COP Research and Development Institute play a very significant role when it comes to NUCs. So the students studied what they are doing there. Let's have a look.
Currently, agriculture accounts for nearly 70% of the global freshwater withdrawals. As a result, climate-smart crops has gained much attention. In Sri Lanka, the main institute conducting research on field crops that include several climate-smart crops is a Field Crops Research and Development Institute located in Mahilupallava. The research center was initiated in the year 1903 to identify suitable economic crops for dry zone rain-fed conditions. In 1950, a fully equipped research station was established. Currently, Mrs. K.N.C. Gunawardhana is the director of the institute. The institute conducts research and development to improve varieties of other field crops, dry zone vegetables and fruit crops, to develop plant protection strategies and agronomic practices, and to improve water and soil conservation methods. Mustard, black gram, finger millet and other millets, soybean, sorghum, maize, big onion, groundnut, sunflower, cowpea, mung bean, chili, castor, gingerly and red onion are given a big focus. Finger millet, Kurakan or the dancing grain according to ancient Sanskrit literature, is an important yet underutilized food crop in Sri Lanka. Common millets include proso millet, little millet, foxtail millet and codder millet. These millets are referred to as the crops of the poorest because they need minimal inputs. Their nutrient and economic value is yet to be fully exploited. Some of the recent research highlights from the Mahilupallava Research Center on these underutilized food crops includes a study on dietary fibers, starch fractions, and nutritional composition of finger millet varieties in Sri Lanka that identified high nutrient profile of Ravi, Ravana, and Oshada finger millet varieties. A study measured nutrient composition, antioxidant, and alpha amylase inhibitor activity of Ravana and Oshada comparing with Basmati and BG300 varieties of rice. The study revealed that nutritional composition and health-related functional properties of finger millet were higher compared with the improved rice varieties. A most recent study was conducted in this year by Senivaratna and others on anti-amylase, anti-glucosidase, and anti-glycation properties of millets and sorghum from Sri Lanka, and found that selected millet types and sorghum varieties in Sri Lanka exhibited range of health food properties in relation to management of diabetes and its complications. Despite the high effort, a study by FCRDI revealed lack of awareness among farmers as a main factor that limit the adoption of OFC and vegetable varieties in the field. On the other hand, farmers are motivated to grow commercial crops by the extension delivered to doorstep along with higher offers for purchasing the harvest offered by seed importing companies. Field Crop Research Institute, Mahidul Pallama, as well as other research institutes in Sri Lanka and the world, has to face the global challenge of feeding the increasing world population and achieving the food and nutrient security. The emphasis on underutilized food crops such as finger millet and other millets, which consume a minimum level of inputs while being resistant to a wide range of pests, diseases, and adverse climatic conditions, can be a promising path to achieve the zero hunger goal.
Right. Excellent video. Thank you. I think it's time for us to let me switch on videos. Yeah. It was very nice to hear to Dr. Ajant, and we know that now the country has taken some bold steps. They have taken some difficult decisions, and there is anxiety, hesitation in many circles, so what's going to happen? But obviously, the Department of Agriculture has some solid plans. That's what he said. But in the past, we had some national programs targeting NUCs. And it is quite a wise idea to look back and see what we learned from the past, what we can learn from the past, what we achieved and what we have failed. I think the best person to talk is Dr. Gavini Samasinga. He has played a leading role in conducting these national projects targeting NUCs, and we have him here with us. I can see you, sir.
Yes, I think you can hear me.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, let me thank you very much, Dr. Sandima, for the opportunity. And let me share my screen. So the topic today is neglected and underutilized crops to improve climate resilience and to improve dietary diversity in communities. Under that, so I have even tasked to share some of the issues that we have done with regard to national programs for enhanced NUC production. So lesson learned. So here actually I was undertaking a project called Biodiversity Food and Nutrition Project. So here I like to share some of the activities that we have conducted with respect to that project. So as you know, Sri Lanka is a hotspot of biodiversity. And so we have these 46 agroecological zones. And also in top of that, we have more than 2,000 years old agriculture history. Therefore, Sri Lanka has many unique wild and cultivated plant genetic resources, which comprises a lot of underutilized plants. Just to tell you, I think I wonder whether the previous speakers have shown this one. If you take here, I focus mainly on the fruits and vegetable consumption. If you take, even though we have a lot of fruits and vegetables around, you see, you can see the fruits and vegetable consumption in Sri Lanka. If you take it by portions, and now we are taking starch, a lot of starch, that is 14 portions, but that altogether fruits and vegetables is like 5 portions, right? It's like 2.1 and 1.7 vegetables, but recommended is 5 portions of fruits and 3 to 4 portions of vegetables. So we have to have a good program to make the people eat these fruits and vegetables. You can compare with the United Nations developed countries. So, so that is equal our national recommendation. And I think you have seen a lot of in the videos. You have seen a lot of underutilized crops there. But I would like to highlight some of these. Now, even if you take traditional varieties, there are about 600 traditional rice varieties recorded. So actually, some of the traditional varieties have good qualities, like especially the medicinal qualities, and also different nutritional properties as well. Therefore, I think we have to have the information on those, and we have to make use of them. I think there are some of them are underutilized. And the other thing is we have these finger millet traditional varieties, then the foxtail millet, and the especially the pulses like green gram. You have these yellow types and green types, and the cowpea types, right? And also the horse gram, kollu. So these are some of the underutilized crops which are available in Sri Lanka. If you go to the banana, even you see even though there are several varieties, actually 26 varieties recorded in Sri Lanka, but we see very few species, few varieties in the market. Therefore, we have to, now when we analyze these varieties, we see like Pualu has very high rich content of vitamin A. I think Professor Madhurit will elaborate on this. And the mangoes, even we are marketing in the market very few mango varieties. And wood apple is a very wonderful fruit, which is it's available in Sri Lanka, and I think maybe on the southern part of India and Bangladesh. So we have a very good advantage, competitive advantage in commercializing even that fruit. And also yams, quite a lot of yams, more than 60 varieties recorded, 200 collections are at the PGRC, and different nutritional properties, I think, which have been proven. On top of that, the vegetables like elabatu, that is small brinjal, and the tibbatu, and also other vegetables, jack, and leafy vegetables, quite a lot. So we are actually in the market, we see very few, one, two, three, four, you can count it, which are available in the market. So those are actually underutilized. So if you focus a little bit on fruits, actually it says, even Dr. Ajan told, over 60 varieties are recorded, but there are more varieties. As you know, they are good in high antioxidant contents and fiber, minerals, medicine value. So there are very high potential contribution for food security, balanced nutrition, health, income generation, and even the environmental services. Now, vegetables, there are more than 100 vegetables. I think the number should be much more. If you take the leafy vegetables, there are quite a lot. You can see in this picture, there are quite a lot of leafy vegetables are sold in the local market. And let me give you some examples. The ethnobotany survey conducted with the Biodiversity Food and Nutrition Project, there are 3 pilot sites we had. So we focused on mainly the leafy vegetables, vegetable fruits, and even the edible flowers. So in that case, you can imagine within 3 villages, a total number of 112 underutilized plants identified with the ethnobotany details, including 56 leafy vegetables, 17 vegetables, 38 fruits, 3 edibles. So I just want to tell you the richness of these underutilized crops. So how do we make the aware of the people? So diversity fair, seed fair is one of the good efforts. So here I am showing you some of the pictures from the Africa and Nepal, and also Sri Lanka as well. So you can have a village level diversity fair, because the villagers, even though the things are around them, they don't know exactly value of those. So they are buying things from the market and eat, right? They use there in the meals. And this is another one we did with the project, one of the village in Udukumbura. So this how they displace these the things that is around their home garden. So others people and even the school children can visit these places, and they got aware about the things around. And in addition to that, awareness program for school children is also conducted in par with the fruit exhibition conducted at Foreigner. So there we delivered some lectures regarding the balanced nutrition and the value of the underutilized fruit species, then the nutritional composition of underutilized species, and the medicinal value and the value-added products using underutilized. And also we got the students to eat the fruits, to familiarize with the food they have, and also to get the to develop the culture. Then we had a very good program, national program in 2017 to commemorate the World Food Day. So we got diversity from the year round. All 25 districts brought the diversity into Peradeniya, PGRC. So we had 36 food stalls exhibiting food diversity in different districts. And then, so it went as a competition. So that encourages, motivated the people who participated in that, and they got prizes as well. You can see the diversity they displayed there. In parallel, we conducted food festival as well, because you know the utilization of underutilized crop is the ways they put them into our diets, and also making the recipes using them. So cooking competitions, and from the 25 districts, initially we had district level competitions. The selectors, the selected people who came for the final competition, and you know we have this very renowned judges, and so they ultimately selected very few the places like first place, second place, third place. So cooking competition using Vigna Mungo is you know, it's black gram, and also it's a snack prepared from that, and then a siamese, and then the kohila is a Lesia spinosa, it's underutilized one, and then the aloe vera drink, then the garcinia cinnamon juice, then the other citrus. So likewise, there are plenty of, and as far as I remember, 160 recipes were collected, and we published a book on that as well. Then the food composition analysis, I think this will be elaborated by Dr. Madhujit. Anyway, I just mentioned with the using this project, we'll be able to do 58 priority crop varieties, land races of 20 species, the full profile of these species food composition, and they incorporated to the FAO database as well. Then the, you know, not only that, we need to intervene in the policy and regulatory framework as well. So the BFN project intervened the policy framework that is called National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, prepared 2016-2020 Action Plan. So there we intervened, and they highlighted the activities like mainstreaming biodiversity conservation and sustainable use for improved human nutrition and well-being. In addition to that, the projects, we were able to prepare policy briefs to achieve food and nutrition security through agrobiodiversity sensitivity in Sri Lanka. So that also forwarded to the Ministry of Environment. And in addition to that, you know, this establishment of smallholder growers on root and tuber crops and home garden diversity for improved nutrition and livelihood in Aranayak area, about 70 farmers' households were conducted by this project, and that was done through a non-NGO that is called Community Development Center. You can see they have grown, there are about 56 indigenous cultivars of fruit and tubers, and that, in addition to that, they were able to provide value-added products, and also, so they had developed a cluster of 70 farmers of especially these root and tuber crops. Then, as you know, this home gardening, Sri Lanka is a very popular, we have a very good home garden culture. So the project staff thought we should introduce some of the varieties back, because when we went to this project site, we saw that some of the traditional varieties are disappeared because of this introduction of new varieties. But still they want to cultivate. So what we did was, for these villages, crops like finger millet, and some leafy vegetables, then the traditional rice, local yams, local okra and vegetable were introduced within this project. So they were actually possessing high nutrition value. So to ensure the food security, and also to maintain the genetic diversity, and to diversify the home garden, and also grow them organic cultivation, because they minimize the use of pesticide. And since some locations had this irrigation problems, we introduced some simple water management system for households. Then this was further upscale in other home gardens. You can see how, so it went as a competition, and they were very fond of that. And we identify some of the schools in these project sites, and also We provided some support for the school garden development because, as you know, these students are the best. They grab the things very quickly, and they even teach their parents as well, and they develop that how home garden should be raised, and so that kind of activities we did. And also with the universities, we had some programs to popular underutilized food crops, and also with the food promotion board or urban home garden model was developed. And then the marketing. So as you know, in Sri Lanka, marketing is one of the biggest issue. So project supported to develop marketing outlets for these community development centers. To that, they develop these candle and other things, and their products we sell. And in addition to that, with the help of this food promotion board, they were able to develop mango, anoda, and veralu drinks that was very popular at that time, and they branded as a Sunmac. And based on that, entrepreneurs were trained, and then this is now done by the entrepreneurs. So likewise, another marketing option was the trade fairs and other marketing avenues, homegrown products. So they were sold by this community development center in the Kegal area, and you see how people are buying that. And so that kind of things were did with the project, as you know. But there are other places also, even now Pugnagala, they have separate organic fair like that things. So that kind of activities are going on. And as you know, as I told you, the incorporation of these underutilized foods in our recipes is the best to popularize them. So Helabojun is a very good platform for that. So with the project, we supported Helabojun to open outlets, and also to analyze the food composition of those. At the moment, as you know, in the Department of Agriculture is having the managed 25 outlets by the department. On top of that, agrarian department, because the concept was so popular. Now the concept took by the agrarian development, Mahavali, and private sector. I think you can see when you are traveling around the world. So this is one of the good platforms to popularize underutilized foods. So with that, I would like to conclude and thanking for the opportunity, and Biodiversity Food and Nutrition projects to for the funding and the support to have these things. And so what I said, the things I said, everything is there in our website. This is www.dfnsrilanka.org, which is still active, and now more than 1 million people have visited the website. So thank you once again. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you, sir. That was quite informative presentation. I'm sure we all learned a lot. I was actually wanted to ask you where we can find this information. So it's there in your website.
Yes.
And
yes, it's in the website.
Sir, I was also thinking like these. There has been very, very successful projects with kind of ripple effects like Helabojun. So how are you monitoring? Is there a monitoring system? To monitor the success of these projects and report it back to the public? So that I was wondering, even as scientists, we were not aware of these about these programs. Our knowledge is also limited. So if my question is how you monitor these programs? Is there a system to monitor?
Actually, the Department of Agriculture is do some kind of monitor, but as far as I remember, the University of Peradeniya, they conducted some the studies on this, and I think a good monitoring system is quite required, because just having Helabojun, because you know still some of the food products sold in the Helabojun are some oily, some sugary, and so that kind of problems are also there. So that's why we intervene to analyze them and show the nutrition profiles of these things. And So actually there need good monitoring and evaluation system to improve that platform, I guess. So maybe universities can discuss with the DG Agriculture and we can do some studies on that as well.
Thank you, sir. If anybody wants to ask questions from Dr. Samarasinghe, you can raise hand so we can take up them later if possible. Will you be here, sir?
Yes, I will. I will take time and I will rejoin. Right.
Right, sir. Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Actually, we want to diverge our attention on to the other side of this issue, because sustainability of these supply chains. Now we know we've talked about the producer, but the sustainability depends on the supply chain, where the consumer has a big role to play, and at the other end. So next we want to watch a short video developed by the students. They talk to the consumers and to understand what is the view of the consumer on NUCs. Can we have the video please now?
Neglected and underutilized crops, known as NUCs, are indigenous ancient crops that are currently used at low levels. Due to the increased demand for modern commercialized crop varieties, most of the traditional crop varieties remain as underutilized crops. Sri Lanka faces a triple burden of malnutrition that spans across undernutrition, overnutrition, along with macro and micronutrient deficiencies. Nutrition-related non-communicable diseases such as type 2 diabetes, mellitus, and obesity have reached to epidemic portion in Sri Lanka. These statistics indicate that the Sri Lankans almost entirely depend on plant-based food for their nutrient requirements. Inadequate intake of nutrients and lack of dietary diversity is attributed to protein energy malnutrition and vitamin A deficiency, causing hidden hunger and malnutrition in the nation. We did a survey based on a structured questionnaire to collect information on the degree of awareness, consumption rates, and preferences of consumers on NUCs as food options. Data was collected from consumers of different income categories and across 11 districts and 7 provinces. Let's move into the view of consumers about NUCs.
What do you know about underutilized crops?
Well, they are crop species that are used traditionally in the past for food, fiber, fodder, oil, or medicinal produce. And also they have an unexploited potential to contribute to food security, nutrition, health, income generation, and also the environmental services.
ඔබේ අදහසට අනුව ඌන පරිභෝජිත භෝග අනාගතය සඳහා සුරක්ෂිත කිරීම වැදගත්ද? එසේ වන්නේ නම් එයට හේතුව පහදන්න.
ඒක තමත් වැදගත් වෙනවා. මොකද අපේ ගොඩක් ඉතිහාසය ගැන අවුරුදු 30කට පස්සේ හිනම් ප්‍රවචන පාත ඒ අපේ නැස්සලා ගිහලා තියෙන්නේ. මේකේ තියෙන වටිනාකම කියලා කරන්න බෑ. කියන්නේ අපේ රටේ වගේ නැති වුණාට වෙනත් රටවල ඖෂධ වර්ග හදන්න. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේකේ තියෙන ඉතින් එක කියන්නේ මේකේ තියෙන ජානමය දේවල් තමයි ගන්න. ඒකෝල අපේ රටවල වල ඒක පළතුරක් විතරක් පාවිච්චි කරනකොට සමහර රටවල් වල ඒව පාවිච්චි කරන ඇත්තටම බෙහෙත් වර්ග හදන්න. අපිට මේ බෙහෙත් අන්තිමට එවනවා. ඒ කට්ටිය ඒව අරගෙන බෙහෙත් අපේ පළතුරු වලින් බෙහෙත් හදලා ඒ කට්ටිය අපිට ඖෂධ දෙනවා. අපේමදී අපිම සල්ලි වල අරන් ගන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා. අදට නැතත් තව අවුරුදු 10කින් 15කින් හරි අපේ රටවල වල මේ දේවල් සංරක්ෂණය කරලා තිබුණොත් අපේ රටවල මේ දේවල් හැදෙයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
If available, do you like to purchase underutilized crops?
Yes, indeed.
How is the price of underutilized crops or product when compared with other products in the market?
Well, they are comparatively expensive.
As a consumer, what would you expect to change to popularize underutilized crops?
Well, as a consumer, I can demand the products produced from the underutilized crops, and also I can encourage investments in the researching and improving the productivity, adaptability, and utilization of these neglected crops. And I should make crops and their varieties more nutritious and improve their yield and ability to withstand the effects of currently prevailing climatic changes.
In your perspective, is saving underutilized crops useful or important?
Yes, indeed. It ensures food security, and also it increases the incomes of the families, and also it diversifies the food production system and enhance the biodiversity, and mainly they stabilize the ecosystem and occupy important ecological needs. And furthermore, they also improve nutrients.
High cost and lack of interest were other reasons why NUCs were not consumed. 55% of people prefer to consume NUCs considering their high nutritional value, whereas 75% like the taste, and 10% consumed NUCs because their crops were less contaminated with agrochemicals. However, while 44% of people expressed NUC's products were expensive, a response of 36% was that NUC's products were cheap. The data clearly indicates that although the consumer has some understanding about the nutritional and health benefits of NUCs, they are not adequately aware of the NUC's crops, commercial products available in the market or the price range. It is worth highlighting that if available, people of different income categories are willing to purchase NUCs. At the same time, if planting material is available, consumers will try to grow NUCs in home gardens. Improving awareness of NUCs species and their multiple uses and increased availability of planting material and NUCs products will increase NUCs consumption.
Background to listen to our next speaker, Professor Madhujit. He will talk to us on the nutritional, what these NUCs can bring to the consumer, mainly on nutrition perspective. Over to you, sir. So can you hear us?
Dr. Chandima, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Let me share my screen. I hope you can see the screen, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Chandima, for the invitation and also the Youth for Climate Action group. Thank you for initiative. It's very, in fact, the high time for us to discuss and debate about this and coming up with potential solutions for this. So much of the things that I in fact planned to discuss with you, share with you, have already been shared by Dr. Samarasinghe and other speakers. Anyway, I will quickly walk you through my story. Now, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, not only one goal, a number of goals are matching with the topic that we are discussing today. One goal is number one, that is no poverty and zero hunger, and also good health and well-being. So our NUCs directly fall under this 1, 2, and 3, directly or indirectly, I would say. Now, if you look at the agro-biodiversity of the world in general, there are nearly 25 biodiversity hotspots identified in the world, and Sri Lanka is happy to be one of them, and one of the most important biodiversity hotspots in Asia. So what biodiversity, or what more specifically agro-biodiversity is, that's a variety of variability of animals, plants, and microorganisms that are used directly or indirectly for food and agriculture. Lots of studies have been done in animal biodiversity as well in Sri Lanka, but that is not our main focus. We are mainly focusing today on crops. So this genetic diversity is very important for us, not only for food, but also for other purposes as well, like fodder, fiber, fuel, pharmaceuticals, and many other important uses are there. Fruits, leaves, seeds, vegetables, yams, barks, even extract of plants and animal-based foods, they have been used to fulfill different nutritional requirements since antiquity by humans. However, to the best of my knowledge, there are about 360,000 plant species available in the whole world, of which nearly 80,000 edible plant species have been explored by man to date. However, out of these 80,000, only about 150 species have been used directly for food. So the long story cut short, it tells that less than 30 plant species meet more than 90% of the world food requirement. So therefore, only a very limited number of plants are used at the moment as crops. So we have unfortunately adopted monocropping system, which has nearly killed biodiversity in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, one of the 25 biodiversity hotspots, as I mentioned earlier, which we have 46 agroecological zones, number of botanical gardens, 1.3 million home gardens, many concentrated in the central province. And there are many accessions recorded, and some of these accessions are preserved at Plant Genetic and Plant Genetic Resources Center, Gannorul. So, although this we are talking about agrobiodiversity, in few minutes, let's discuss what the actual situation in Sri Lanka is. So increase the diversity of food is directly assisted by the agrobiodiversity. And if we fully utilize agrobiodiversity, we should be able to produce all these at a low cost, but it doesn't happen that way. And it should be able to empower households, empower women. We should be able to defeat malnutrition, improve nutritional status, and it will be an additional income for farming communities. These neglected and underutilized crops, they provide macronutrients, micronutrients, as well as many other non-nutritive constituents commonly known as bioactive components. In fact, my major research area is on these bioactive components from plants, dietary fiber, there are a wide variety of phytochemicals. Most of these phytochemicals do have antioxidant properties, anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties, anti-aging properties, just to name few. The same slide was shared by Dr. Samrat Singh as well. We have done some work besides what was done by Professor Anil Jayawardena. Fruit consumption, these are the recommended portions, number of portions that should be consumed by a person, 2 to 3 portions of fruits. In terms of grams, it's 200 grams. Vegetables, again, at least 200 grams should be consumed per day. And starch, 6 to 11 portions. In the food guide pyramid, the bottom is made of the starchy materials. So our starch consumption is more than required, you can see here, whereas both fruits and vegetables, they fall short. I myself did a study with one of my students in 2014, taking all the faculties across the University of Peradeniya. That time we had only 8 faculties. We did a survey among these students and found out how their fruits and vegetable consumption was. And we found that the average of 260 grams of fruits and vegetables are consumed by our university students. And there was no much difference observed among the faculties and their subjects and disciplines. So 260 is a very low value because we have to achieve at least 400. Whereas in the countries such as United States, the average is about 700 grams per day. So we know where we are. And there are good reasons for this. I used to ask the question in the afternoon lectures from my students, how much of fruits that you have consumed within the day to day. And they are just laughing because that indicates that they have not consumed at least 1 banana per day. So even by about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the day, there's half the day is gone by that time. So if I briefly introduce you the nutritional status of Sri Lanka, although we think that we are now in 2020 and we are much more developed than we were earlier, but that is not the real situation. We experience double burden of nutrition. On one side, we have undernutrition. On the other side, we have overnutrition. So we are plagued with both. Children with less than 5 years, 17% stunted, 14% severely stunted, 15% wasted, and 21% underweight, 4% severely underweight. When we did a study in 2017 and found out the malnutrition and more specifically iron deficiency anemia. In some districts, we found that maternal iron deficiency anemia is about 30, 31, 32, 33 in that order, especially in districts such as Monoragala, Kilinochchi, and few other districts. Even in the Galle district, it was reported recently, it was done by another group from Karapitiya. They found that in some localities, they observed even high as 45% maternal iron deficiency anemia in certain localities near Galle. So the situation is not very healthy. Micronutrient deficiencies are very prevalent, especially vitamin A. You can see 58% of pregnant women, they received mega doses of vitamin A. So that indicates that where we are in terms of micronutrients. Now, vitamin D is also becoming deficient. That's one of the recent findings, especially among school children, since they are not much exposed to sunlight, since they are confined to schools, tuition classes, and home, they are not adequately exposed to sunlight. If you look at the extent of fruit cultivation, we have about 110,000 hectares. Annual production is 640,000 metric ton, but a significant proportion is lost as post-harvest losses. However, when you step into the market, what you see is mostly banana, grapes, mangoes, and the handful of fruit species you can find. So we do have nearly 56, say around 60 underutilized fruits are available in Sri Lanka. Some of them are endemic, while others are not. So unfortunately, we don't make use of these fruits. There's a lot of awareness created. These are some of the fruits that we studied under the program that we had called BFN, Biodiversity for Human Nutrition, which was funded by FAO and JEF, which was handled by the Department, Ministry of Agriculture. Team leader was Dr. Samarasinghe, and I was handling the food composition section of that. That was a huge project under which I worked on this food composition. So these are some of the fruit species that we analyzed for. We analyzed for all macronutrients and almost all micronutrients, including about 46 minerals. So these, we do have all these fruits, but there are, due to certain reasons, now they are slowly disappearing. Others are there, but we don't fully utilize them. Then there's, we recently concluded a PhD study, totally separate from this study, on Annona, especially Annona muricata. We do have a number of different Annona species in Sri Lanka. They are also still underutilized. And there was another study, again, that led to PhD. The program, we concluded that last year, and she graduated. Again, we focused on underutilized fruits available in Sri Lanka. In this major study, we looked at some banana species. The figures I don't want to stress here because we have tons of data on this, and some of the important ones are already uploaded to BFN website that Dr. Samarasinghe mentioned. And besides their general composition, we looked at vitamin C, total phenolic content, then free radical scavenging capacity based on IC50 value, and their ferric reducing activity, total monomeric anthocyanin, total antioxidant activity, etc. And finally, we rank these important underutilized fruits. We assigned a number based on total antioxidant activity, and we rank them. Also, this clustering was done based on their bioactivity, based on similarity. You can see on this dendrogram. And vegetables, again, we found there are many fairly. Now, Wambatu is, I would say, it is very much utilized, but not Timbatu. And we have other solanum species. Most of these green leafy vegetables, they are not fully utilized except for gotukola and mukunuwana. So we did analyze them, and also jackfruit, pumpkin, kohila root, different brinjal varieties, and koaka, sarana, agunukola, well gotukola, etc. With regard to cereals, we have a wide variety of locally available cereals, but again, it's very difficult to find them in the market. Rice there are more than 200 different clearly identified varieties available, of which right now we are growing less than 10 rice varieties which are commercially available. These are some of the millet species that we looked into. And pulses, again, we have a rich array of pulses such as yellow green gram or kahamung, black horse gram, or we called kollu, and there are different green gram varieties. Also within yellow green gram, we have small ones and large yellow species, etc. We found different varieties, and we did analyze for their composition. There are more than 75 different yam species available in the country. Example, Angiliala, Rajala, Kukulala, Katuala. There are a few farms close by. One is at close to Danture and one site, and there's another one at Maonella. Just give me a second, please. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sure you are with me. Yeah. So these, however, some of these fruit species, we found that new generation, the new generation doesn't know that some of these are fruits. Some of these fruit trees are fallen for their or utilized for timber value. So therefore, we don't basically look at their fruit value, but we mainly focus on the timber value. And clearing lands and converting these lands to buildings or residential areas. As a result, these woody areas are being slashed. And also, some of these trees are huge trees. Therefore, the harvesting is quite impossible. So they basically, upon senescence, they fall onto the ground and get perished. The other thing is that there are no adequate supply of planting materials for people to grow. Now, because of the awareness, now people know the nutritional value and health benefits of these items. However, unfortunately, they don't find adequate amounts of cuttings or plants for them to grow. These are some of the constraints that we have consistently observed. With that, let me summarize my short talk. Sri Lanka is one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world, and monocropping systems have limited the country to a few crop species. There are many NUCs which can be effectively utilized for nutrition, and many NUCs provide rich array of nutrients. These NUCs have very high potential for utilization, so there should be an integrated approach combining universities, Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health. All these should have an integrated effort to bring these NUCs to the regular diet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's a very informative presentation. Thank you very much. Anybody wants to raise a question? So will you be able to get back to us?
Sure, I will.
Yeah, but I thought I would ask a quick question. We collected some questions during the registration process, and one interesting question that was there. If you want to enhance the nutrition profile of the country, which group of crops you would really focus on? What would be the most important target crop group?
Crop groups, yeah. I would say we cannot assign, we cannot rank them as 1, 2, 3. In my mind, we should improve on mainly fruits and cereals.
Cereals.
Yes. Because right now our main cereal is rice, and unfortunately, most of the rice varieties that we consume, they are high glycemic index rice. And since rice is consumed in bulk, even the protein content of rice is say 6%, although it is a low value, since we consume in bulk, the actual contribution is high. So therefore, although the nutritional value in terms of micronutrients is less in rice, but since we consume a large quantity, the actual total contribution is high. So therefore, we should really focus on our cereals and also fruits.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll get back to you at the end of the session.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I want to invite Dr. Iroja Caldera. She's a senior lecturer from the University of Colombo. She's also among the 23 scientists they identified as the future climate cohort by the COP26. She would brief on us on the SDGs and NUCs, the important relationship. Iroja, over to you. We can see your slides.
Thank you, Dr. Shandima.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. So as Dr. Shandima mentioned, I will be speaking about the role of NUCs in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and this has also been touched upon by some of us previous speakers as well. So in the year 2015, world leaders pledged the 2030 Agenda. Now, through this, they spoke about 17 goals, which we refer to as the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. And at present, we have just about 9 years to achieve all the goals that they envisaged in 2015. Now, naturally, when we look at the goals, one of the main goals that are interlinked with the NUCs is goal number 2, which is on zero hunger. So zero hunger, this particular goal hopes to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. When we look at the specific targets under this SDG, we can see how nicely interlinked these are with the higher use of NUCs. So for example, access to nutritious food, ending malnutrition, increasing productivity and the income of the small-scale food producers, and also the sustainable food production, and also maintaining the genetic diversity in food production. So all of these really go well with mainstreaming NUCs, and the growth of NUCs can really help in achieving this particular SDG. But also, if you look at the first one, which is no poverty, here also NUCs can have a huge impact because they can support rural economies by employment and also income generation, because farmers can, for example, sell the surplus produce and therefore sort of augment their income. So therefore, for this first one as well, NUCs can have a big impact. And there again, if we look at the third SDG, which is on good health and nutrition can be supplemented through the growth and the consumption of NUCs. So I think, as the earlier speaker, Professor Madhujit, also mentioned, these three SDGs have a very strong relationship with NUCs. However, if we look at the rest of our SDGs, there are also others which have a kind of a relationship, a correlation with the greater use of NUCs. Now, if I may take three of these, gender equality, good jobs and economic growth, and number 10, reduced inequalities. So let's just quickly go through this. So if we look at number 5, gender equality, quite often NUCs are maybe grown, maintained, and also sustained by women in their home gardens. And therefore, in an indirect manner, they have this potential to empower female farmers and indirectly contribute towards gender equality. And also, if we look at SDG 8, now when we look at agriculture, it is regarded as the single largest employer worldwide. And in many developing countries, it really plays a big role in the GDP. So because of that, mainstreaming NUCs can actually help in SDG 8 as well. When we come to SDG 10, which is on reducing inequalities, and this particular SDG actually deals with both reducing inequalities within a country as well as amongst countries. So we are talking about the local context, so that is within a country. Some of the specific SDG 10 targets include reducing income inequalities and also empowering and promoting economic inclusion, irrespective of gender, economic status, social status. So because of the impact NUCs have on rural farmers and the economy, SDG 10 can also be achieved to a certain extent by the mainstreaming of NUCs. Then another rather obvious SDG that could be helped through NUCs is responsible consumption and production, because targets in this include sustainable management as well as use of natural resources. Then we also have climate action, which is very much in the news these days. So if we look at these NUCs, they have some characteristic features, I think, which were mentioned by earlier speakers as well. They're usually nutrition-dense crops, and also, very importantly, they tend to be climate resilient and well adapted to local climate or the local environment. And they are also, you can also grow them very often in marginal areas. And due to these facts, these type of crops can really help in increasing the resilience of agriculture to climate change. Therefore, towards climate action as well, NUCs can play a big role. Then if we look at number 15, which is life on land, the conservation of agrobiodiversity, as well as the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, can be attained through growing NUCs. So therefore, even to this particular SDG, NUCs can assist in countries to achieve it. Now, these are actually the main sort of SDGs that the NUCs interconnect with. But other than that, there are also lots of other synergies. So as you know, if you take SDGs, there are lots of interlinkages amongst the 17 SDGs. Now, a rather unusual one I'd just like to bring as an example is this, SDG 2, which is on zero hunger, and surprisingly, SDG 16, which is on peace and justice and inclusivity. So there is a sort of a mutual relationship. And in general, these two, food security and peace, are mutually reinforcing concepts. If you think about the fact if there is lack of food, there can be more conflict. And it is based on this that this interlink actually happens. So zero hunger can actually help to create just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. So therein also NUCs can play a role in achieving SDG 16. So to wrap up this very brief introduction to the relationship between NUCs and SDGs, when we look at the 2030 agenda, what they hope to achieve was ending extreme poverty, promoting inclusivity, and protecting the planet. And a basic premise that all of this kind of rests upon is that no one should be left behind. The leave no behind concept is very strong in the 2030 agenda. So when we look at mainstreaming NUCs, they have a huge role to play because they bring to the forefront marginalized groups, for example, the rural farmers, and therefore the use of NUCs and their mainstreaming can really help in achieving this premise of leaving no one behind and also achieving many of the 17 SDGs that we should achieve by the year 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, Iroja. You bring all the things into the table. Thank you very much. The message was very strong.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I think it's time to move to another aspect, the industry sector. All is said, the potential discovered. Is the industry ready to make use of this? What is their receptive capacity? Representing the industry, we have Mr. Ranjiva Malasurya. He will focus on coconut, which is obviously not underutilized in the country. But we thought it would be interesting because how the industry can intervene, how what approaches industry can have to mainstream these crops through applications, accretive markets, and so on. Over to you, Mr. Ranjiva, if you are there. He's here, yes. Right.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Good morning to everyone. Since probably we are running short of time, I will try to go faster, Doctor. Let me try to share the screen first. Is it visible?
Yes, just we need the slideshow. Yes, good.
Okay. So as Doctor said, I thought I'd like taking a mainstream crop example to talk about how industry will look at this topic, or how are we assessing the supply chain demand or supply chain gaps when it comes to mainstream crops. So because of its coconut, I will go a little faster to tell you about the overall perspective from industry point of view, as well as a little bit of how consumer will look at this one as well. So that's why I'm taking this example for coconut to take, because that's easy for me to get some of the numbers to share, because industry always look at the numbers potential before really look into any further add into any crop or further growing it further. So as you all know, it's fourth largest export crop, even though it's not part of NUC, but actually when I show the numbers, it's actually underutilized if you look at the really way that we are growing. Again, we also have the same challenges with the coconut because it's completely neglected lands. No one is looking at, we only look at the coconut tree to plug the nuts, nothing else, no water, nothing being added, just like completely neglected tree, even though it's a mainstream crop. So, but it's very much depending on economic system. So, I mean, when we have school time itself, we learn we have 3 crops, coconut is one of them, even though we are not focusing much. So, the story I want to tell over here is, because I'm not looking at from Sri Lankan content, I want to bring into the global perspective. If you look at coconut in last 10 years has grown immersely in the world market. So we see the potential of coconut presently, it's about 31 billion world market. That is because it's replacing the cow milk slowly. So people start consuming coconut as a milk beverage. So there's a huge nutrition benefit, and nowadays coconut is being called as a superfood. We used to have different the regions of superfood in different eras. Now they call coconut also as a superfood. So why I want to bring this perspective? Because when you wanted to put a product or a crop to the market, whether it's local, if you look at a little bit of beyond homegrown or local vicinity, even to local into market and to international market, you need to see what do you replace, what is the potential. So that's the point of view I want to bring in. So industries like us, why we are heavily investing on coconut, we see the world trend towards that. But locally, we have challenges. These numbers are maybe little known to all of you, so I'm not going to talk about the agriculture part of it. So Sri Lanka has coconut growing about 1 million acres. Nut average is about 2,800, and export demand is production is about 3 billion nuts. Domestically, we are a huge coconut eating nation, so we are about more than 70% being consumed locally. But the challenge is, it's actually the yield is quite low. I mean, if you look at, I'll come to a little later, what is the yield about international average point of view. But it is giving you, the country is giving you about almost 700 million foreign revenue, because nowadays Sri Lanka is very much below foreign revenues. These are hot topics, but this industry can easily go about 1 billion. The problem is, we are not really getting the right yields. So with the yield, there are many issues. Just want to give a little bit of comparison about what is happening in other part of the world. Vietnam is not a big coconut country, but India is quite big. So those countries average yield averaging from 4,000. In certain areas, it goes up to 10,000. I don't know whether we have any colleagues from India. They can second this information or have a different view. But Sri Lankan content, we are quite low. The problem being low in yield, not giving the right the yield, is the cost is quite high. So you actually can't compete in international market. That's the challenge you are facing. So these are the challenges in coconut in generally. I mean, I heard the same thing in different products per se, into poor management, not being looked at properly. But if you really look at this one as an economical crop, whether it's the different type of seeds or anything, so I want to say that this is how it should be looked at it if you want to bring it to the mainstream. So same time, I mean, companies like us, we are looking at Kollu, what to do with the product with Kollu, Kohila, we are doing products from Kohila, but we are working backward. We always say what is the market potential, at what price market will buy this. Then we work backward on our supply chain. The classic example is if I try to buy, get the name of the fruit. Some local grown fruits are quite expensive than getting an apple from Australia to down to Sri Lanka. So we need to get our supply chain corrected. So this is equally same for coconut. Here, just to show you that the comparison, at present, we are having a coconut about 2,800 nuts on average. It's giving you about 1 billion, 8.8 billion revenue as a turnover. In general. So if you increase this yield by about 30%, you can make our foreign income almost about 2 times, which is almost 1.5 billion, 1.5 to 1.6 billion. But then you'll be reasonable. For you to be competitive in the international market, we minimum need to go about 4,500 per acre. This is not a high ask. I mean, since you have agriculture expert, this is not a high ask. So this being happened in any other part of the world, this can be doing. So the thing is, when you hit to that number, the economic works. So we are competitive among Indonesia or Thailand and those countries, and then you can really grow your sector. The challenge what you face locally, I mean, again, taking example like coconut, since it's a local market, people buy at any price, but things won't work that way in the international market. You need to get our production into the right value. So you need to get our post-harvesting into the right way. I mean, we all know that how much waste we are creating from post-harvesting, some say about 30%, 40%. These are all adding cost to it. So what I actually wanted to propose to the forum, since the young crowd is also here, so I propose to look at from economic point of view. That's what the industries like us. Maybe the example a little bigger, but when you start growing, I mean, since they're agriculture experts, we also need to go out and start growing our own, because giving advices also will not help for farmers, because the problem in this agriculture sector in Sri Lanka, the young generation does not join. So where you have the information, you know what to do, even the authorities are here, I would request you to look at the market, because otherwise, sometimes what I've seen it, as a company also we have seen it, the farmers grow once, but they don't have the market, they drop it next time. So how much it's nutrition, how much it's rich in quality, but even if it is not competitive in the market, they can't compete with the market. So it's have a natural death. So this is an example I want to share in general. So, so that's all about the update, Dr. Chandima. If you want to add anything, I'm pretty much okay to discuss. The example I actually wanted to share is Galsiembala. If you try to get Galsiembala in the market or rather in your road, that's more expensive than getting an apple from Australia. So this is the challenge you are facing. So how much you talk about nutrition, we need to see how are we going to make it more reasonable for the consumers to use it and to compete in the market.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiva. Any questions from for Mr. Rajiva? You can raise hands. But I thought I would like to ask one question, Mr. Rajiva. Now, what is the capacity of industry as a company maybe to develop a crop from grassroots level to the maybe to bring it to the consumer? What capacity the industry have to do it, or the public sector? What do you expect from the public sector in this whole process? I mean, to develop a value chain.
Okay, so there are, I would say, I mean, companies like us, we always use these crops, Dr. Chandimala. So I said, kollu, we have been using kernel into biscuits. We have put Hibit into biscuits. We have also trying continuously, because there is no perfect equation like you need to grow, then you look at the market, or look at the market grow. So it's always need to go parallelly, so that you can't find a perfect blending elsewhere. So the challenge what we see in most of the time, I mean, companies like us, we introduce about 100 products. Out of that, only maybe 10, 20 will remain in the market. Same way in the export market also. So you need to keep on understanding the market needs. Let's say, I'm just taking an example on kollu because we've been working on kollu for some time now. Even though it's nutritionally high, no one will use it if it is not palatable, if its taste is not right. You need to change the texture of it. You need to do the right product to it. I mean, same way we are looking at moringa. You know, moringa powder can use it for many things, but no one will use moringa with the green color. You need to change the texture. Use it to, if you want to put it into coconut milk, and use it like a dairy replacement. So you always need to work on the palatability and the customer demand. That's why what you replace is always play a bigger role.
So the problem is in R&D, right? Like more than anything, like the product development side.
Plus, then from there we need to work. I mean, maybe the initially it could be R&D. From there you need to look at your supply chain, whether you have the right environment. So you need to get all the pieces correct. So that's why coconut, likewise, it's working today, at least in a little way, even though it's not as come to the high level. So you need to get all pieces correct. So we can't look at this kind of initiative from one point of view, not from supply chain, not from product development, not from consumer. So you need to get all the pieces work if you really want to make an impact. Otherwise, you can make it in a homegrown level to as a replacement. I mean, that's also creating an impact though. But if you really want to get a breakthrough, you need to get all the pieces correct and moving from the same time.
Thank you. So, Mr. Raji, will you be able to join the Q&A session later?
As long as it's 11:30, I can stay. Sorry, I have another meeting to attend by 11:30.
Okay. So maybe we will get back to you with the questions. There are quite a few questions in the chat box and Q&A. Maybe we'll find another way to answer them.
Sure.
Right.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are moving to our last speaker, Mr. Sampath Aberatna. Is the technical specialist to the UNDP. And now, all being said, I think it's when we envisage the future, we cannot ignore the impact of climate change, especially when it comes to NUCs, because these are grown in low input systems. So there are quite a lot of lessons we need to learn if we try to mainstream these crops. Your experience in dry zone agriculture, especially climate smart agriculture, will be very valuable for us. Would you like to speak, Mr. Sampath?
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandima, giving us this opportunity. So this session is on underutilized crops and climate smart dry zone agriculture. So I will try to take you to a different discussion on promotion and development of underutilized crops for the economic development and agricultural livelihood development in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. So actually now Meteorological Department has recently issued the future climatic projections for Sri Lanka, taking into account the current climate change context globally and nationally as well. So according to their projections, the dry zone part of Sri Lanka is expected to be more drier and also expected to be expanded into intermediate zone areas in the future. So they have developed their projections in two scenarios. So the first scenario, referring to year 2020 to 2040 era, seems to be more accurate. So in that case, actually, we will have to expect more dry situation in our dry zone. And now agriculture policies and practices implementation in dry zone should have the readiness to take this challenge. And also some of the areas that we currently identify as intermediate zone will start illustrating features of the dry zone. So then our planning process should take this phenomenon into account. I think you hear me, Dr. Chandima?
Yes, we can hear, but you
and
have
you can see my slides also?
Yes.
Okay, right. So we know the dry zone part of our country receives less than 1,750 millimeters annual rainfall, with a very distinct dry season from the month of May to September. So in this discussion, I will mainly focus two main farming systems, especially the wetland dry farming system and rain-fed upland cultivations. So we will discuss how. Yeah, Chandima.
The slide not moving.
Yeah, I'm referring to the second slide, so you can see the slide, right?
No, they're not moving. We are still on the title page.
I see.
Okay. So maybe you have to keep an eye. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Is it moving now?
It's on. We are on the second side, third side now.
Right. Okay. Right. So I will remove the presentation mode then because otherwise you won't be able to see my slides. So is it okay this way? Is it manageable?
It's manageable if you could manually move your slides beyond.
Right. Okay. Right. Sure. Right. So this discussion, I will focus two main dry zone farming systems. The first is a wetland rice farming system, where I will focus on mine irrigation schemes and rain-fed farming systems. Now, as you all know, we have more than 800,000 hectares of aswadimised paddy lands in Sri Lanka, of which nearly 55% is dependent on either mine irrigation schemes or rain-fed agriculture. So this particular farming system illustrates high level of climatic vulnerability, mainly because of these two factors. The number one is the rain-fed nature of cultivation, and then the dependency for mine irrigation schemes. Again, they depend on rainfall. So secondly, we will focus on rain-fed upland cultivations, mainly Chena cultivations and homestead farming units, because we can identify these two farming systems with high level of climatic vulnerability, taking the rainfall and temperature regime with the climate change. So these two vulnerable farming systems are actually part of man-made agricultural ecosystem we call mine irrigation tank systems, or rather village irrigation tank systems. Dr. Chandima, can you see my next slide, please? It illustrates the village irrigation tank system.
Yes, yes, that's good.
Okay, right, thanks. Right, so then in our discussion to assess the climatic vulnerability of dry zone farming systems, mine irrigated and rain, especially mine irrigated farming systems, we have to analyze the climatic vulnerability of village irrigation systems, so which is defined as a man-made agricultural ecosystems. So to analyze the climatic vulnerability, I would like to use this very famous definition on climatic vulnerability based on the exposure to climate change and sensitivity to climate change and the adaptive capacity to climate change. So the NRMC, the Natural Resources Management Center of the Department of Agriculture, has developed divisional level climatic vulnerability maps for some of the dry zone districts of Sri Lanka in collaboration with the United Nations Development Programme, in which we have adapted this definition to gauge the climatic vulnerability, mainly described based on the exposure to climate change, sensitivity to climate change, and adaptive capacity to climate change. So the climate change impacts are manifested in dry zone farming systems with two main phenomena. The number one is water scarcity, and then the high temperature. So as a result of these two phenomena, in the dry zone farming systems, we have observed some symptoms over the years. The number one is reduced cropping intensity of village, reduced cropping intensity. Dr. Chandima, hope you can see my slides.
We see number 6. We missed number 5. I think you did it on purpose. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So as a result of these issues, the water scarcity and high temperature, we can observe some of the symptoms. One is the reduced cropping intensity of village irrigation schemes over the time. Now it has come down to 0.9. So we can reach the cropping intensity of dry zone mine irrigated agriculture up to 2, but now the national average is 0.9. And high pest and diseases incidences with especially with the increased temperature and other climatic aberrations, and low yield potential, and especially the panicle sterility of staple rice. Now, as you all know, with the temperature increase, when the temperature, Dr. Punnavardhana, researchers like Dr. Punnavardhana very clearly indicates when the temperature raises certain amount, maybe a 34 degrees centigrade, when the paddy crop exposed to that level, the panicle sterility becomes a serious problem. So he argues, we call famous halapus. හැල මාසයට අපේ පැඩි ශාකවල සුදු කරල් පීදෙනවා හැල මාසෙතේ අද සීසන් එකේදී. So he attribute this for the temperature increase. So reduce upland cultivations like homestead farm units and also the chain cultivations. So as a result of these issues, we have observed high level of climatic vulnerability, high level of exposure to temperature increase, as well as the drought and floods also, and a high level of sensitivity of our dry zone farming systems for temperature and rainfall regime, and low adaptive capacity of our dry zone farming systems as well as farming communities with climate change. So with this backdrop, actually, I would like to discuss how underutilized crops could be utilized, actually effectively utilized, to address some of the issues that we are facing in our dry zone farming systems with respect to climate change. In this discussion, I would like to focus two main pillars. The first one, I would like to discuss some specific characteristics of underutilized crops themselves, and discuss how, with respect to those resilient features, how those crops could contribute to improve the resilience of dry zone agriculture. Secondly, I would like to discuss how these crops could contribute to make certain improvements or rather changes in the existing dry zone farming systems in order to increase the productivity and also in order to increase the resilience and to reduce the greenhouse gases emission from our dry zone farming systems. So we will carry out the discussion according to this conceptualized framework, and taking into account some of the features of neglected and underutilized crops. They show a high level of drought resilience, and they also show resilience for pest and disease occurrences, and they are fitting very well to dry zone farming systems like chainers, homestead farming units, and wetland cultivations. And underutilized crops can also be used in mixed farming systems, because the monocrop farming systems are considered as vulnerable to climate change and disasters. So mixed farming systems, we have forgotten about our mixed farming systems during last 10-15 years with the green revolution and introduction of monocrops targeting the food production. But underutilized crops can fit very well to maximize the benefits from mixed crop farming systems, and they are environmental friendly, and only simple farming techniques are required, local seeds, and currently increasing prices. Now there are high demand for some of the underutilized crops, and prices compared to staple foods, their prices are not in bad position, and they have high nutrient value, and they can increase the dietary diversity, and sometimes they have medicinal values also. And these crops were neglected during Green Revolution, where we focused on monocrop with selected few staple crops and with the introduction of hybrid seeds. So time has come for us to think about this, the potential of underutilized crops to increase the resilience and productivity of our dry zone farming systems. And let's try to identify very briefly what climate smart agriculture is. Now Sri Lanka has produced a national guideline for climate smart agriculture development. So this is produced in year 2021. So this guideline has adapted the definition introduced by the Food and Agriculture Organization to define climate smart farming systems for Sri Lanka. So which discusses three main pillars. The number one is productivity, then the resilience, and then the greenhouse gases emission. So in order to identify a farming system as a climate resilient farming system, then we have to consider the productivity of those systems and how resilient those systems of climate change and other disasters, and also the level of greenhouse gas emission from those farming systems. And let's discuss one by one the potential of underutilized crops to increase the cropping intensity of dry zone village irrigation tanks. We discussed it has come down to 0.9 now, the national average. And we have 3 main cultivation seasons, though we consider as 2. 2 main seasons, as you know, Maha season and Yala season, but we can cultivate mid-season as well in between 2 major seasons. And we can use underutilized traditional paddy varieties for marginal paddy lands, because the traditional paddy varieties require less amount of water compared to hybrid seeds and other seed varieties. So these varieties show high resilience for pest and diseases, and they also have some medicinal and nutrient value. So traditional rice can be introduced for marginal paddy lands in order to improve the cropping intensity and national food production. So this also fit with the current government policy going for organic. And then how we could utilize other field crops in paddy lands during Yala and mid cultivation seasons to improve the cropping intensity of village irrigation systems. So here I highlight traditional mung varieties like Veda mung and Pinna mung. Pinna mung is a traditional variety, neglected and underutilized variety, which requires only very little amount of water. That's why it's called Pinna mung. And these other field crop species like traditional mung bean varieties are also traditionally grown in chainers and homestead farming units as mixed crops. They require less amount of water. They are short duration crop, and they fetch high prices, and they are also fit into mine irrigated and rain-fed farming systems very well, and suitable to grow in paddy lands during Yala and mid-season, which could significantly contribute to increase the cropping intensity. So now Department of Agriculture has recently produced a different mung breed targeting the cultivation during mid-season. So in our rice one farming system transformation from current level to increase the cropping intensity, mid-season cultivation is very important. That importance is recognized at national level. So some of the other field crops like traditional mung bean could contribute for this target. And then the sesame. Sesame is also, as we know, grown as a highland crop in chainers and homestead farming units, which has very high market value now. And this can also be grown in paddy lands during Yala season and mid-season to increase the cropping intensity. Now we are implementing a large-scale project called Climate Resilient Integrated Water Management Project. This was funded by Green Climate Fund, where we have experimented with Department of Agriculture, Provincial Department of Agriculture, to effectively utilize these underutilized crop species to improve the cropping intensity in Yala season and mid-season cultivation. And we have observed very successful results with respect to sesame and mung bean. Another thing is finger millet. So we had enough discussion about finger millet. So this is also, though this is cultivated traditionally in chainers and highland farming units, this can also be grown in paddy lands during Yala and mid seasons. And we have also done this with Department of Agriculture in 7 dry zone districts, and we have seen successful results. And then Tanahal, millet, certain millet types, and also sorghum. This can also be utilized more. Then horse gram, famous kollu. And then we will very briefly discuss about the underutilized fruit trees naturally grown in ecosystems of village irrigation systems. Now, in the discussion of the resilience of village irrigation systems for climate change and other emerging challenges, actually we have to analyze the ecosystem characteristic, the potential of ecosystem to absorb, I mean, to minimize or rather to reduce the impact of climate change and other disasters. So the village irrigation tank is not just a physical structure, it is a man-made agricultural ecosystem. So if ecosystem is functioning vibrantly only, the village irrigation system can function well. Otherwise, the village irrigated agriculture start illustrating some symptoms, and they become vulnerable for, especially for climate change and disasters. So these crops are naturally grown in ecosystems: jackfruit, tamarind, bale, wood apple, and breadfruit. They have they are a high industrial potential for these fruits. And nearly 15 years before, there was a program called International Center for Underutilized Crops, which was hosted by the International Water Management Institute, where I worked with that program for 2 years, and I got opportunity to do some research and development works on these underutilized fruit trees in the Asia and Pacific region. So we have seen very high potential for processing and value addition of these fruit tree species. And actual recent and last decade, we have seen some development on wood apple processing, jackfruit processing, tamarind processing, especially the value addition and processing of underutilized fruit crops coming from the ecosystems of dry zone village irrigation tanks. And then underutilized leafy vegetables and medicinal herbs: angunukola, talkola, pranavara, valpenella, polpala, irmu. So I have given only few examples, but we can name many. And the underutilized tuber crops. So there are a range of tuber crops we have, but these are underutilized. So some of them are rajala, ratala, innala, but there are many. This is also one area that we can focus more. So summarizing the discussion, despite certain weaknesses of underutilized crops like low yield potential and underdeveloped value chains and lack of extension services and so on, we can see very high potential to use underutilized crops to increase the climatic resilience of dry zone farming systems, taking two main factors into account. The first one is the resilience features of underutilized crops themselves, and then the potential to contribute for the improvement of resilience and the increase in the productivity of existing dry zone farming systems, which shows high vulnerability to climate change and disasters. Some of the features, if I summarize, they are drought tolerance, resistant to pest and diseases, fitting to dry zone farming systems, diversification of dry zone agriculture, simple cultivation techniques, local knowledge available, potential to increase cropping intensity, and they can be grown ecologically and organically, and improve the minor irrigated and rain-fed farming system resilience. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sampath. Is there any question for Mr. Sampath from the audience? You have any questions? Raise your hand and can speak if you do. Mr. Sampath, that was very, very informative presentation. Thank you very much. I would like to ask one question. Now, these 2%, now you said it's only 0.9%. The contribution, it is, obviously, are these farmers largely subsistence level farmers?
Not only with the subsistence level farmers, Dr. Chandima. The national average is 0.9, the cropping intensity. So the farmers, dry zone farmers, I'm referring to minor irrigated agriculture, not the major irrigated agriculture, which covers 54% of the dry zone paddy farming. So nearly 25% of dry zone paddy coming under the minor irrigation schemes, and nearly 30% of dry zone paddy coming under the rain-fed system. So it accounts nearly 55%. So I'm referring this 55%. The other cropping intensities, national average is 0.9. That is not necessarily because of subsistence farming. The people do cultivate only during cultivation season. They abandon their paddy lands during yellow season. So then we can effectively use, they don't cultivate downstream paddy lands during yellow season, mainly because of water scarcity. There is no any other factor hampering them cultivating yellow season, but it is water availability. So then if we introduce water efficient farming systems and also less water consuming crops to be grown in paddy lands during yellow season, and also in between yellow and mid season, we can raise the cropping intensity. This is not necessarily because of subsistence nature alone. It is the farming system that we are having at the moment, unfortunately. So actually in the Maha season, once we harvest the crop, we can use the additional moisture use 6 days varieties to cultivate during mid-season using the residual moisture after Maha season harvesting is completed. So that is the area where I can intervene to improve the cropping intensity. Other than the water management and agricultural modernization with respect to introduction of machinery and all other rest of the stories there, but still we strongly believe yellow season and mid-season cultivation is crucial.
Possible, yeah. So in your experience, what are the bottlenecks? Why it's not happening?
It has started now, Dr. Chandima, not only at project level, national level, this requirement is identified, and this is also captured in the very recent agricultural policy. Maybe if Dr. Ajant is there, he can elaborate more. So this is a recognized factor now. Only thing is we have to find some solutions for water scarcity. That's why we keen on certain underutilized crop species, less water consuming crops, and also some farming systems which could help farmers to grow the downstream with less amount of water. And one of the other challenges with respect to cultivation, other field crops in the paddy land existed before. So earlier, decades or so, paddy lands were not allowed to use for growing other field crops. But now the situation has changed. Now other field crops are recommended to be grown in paddy lands, and government extension is available for that. And responding to your question specifically with respect to markets, one of the crucial thing is to link private sector in this program. So I'm pleased to share with you that UNDP has come to an agreement with CBL to grow with dry zone farmers, especially to cultivate other field crops in yellow and mid-season with respect to market demands for other field crops. Like we can consider this kollu and all series of other field crops and underutilized crops to be grown in paddy lands under this understanding as well in the future. So in addition to markets, the farmers need extension, and department is providing. And when we recommend new crops, although these are traditionally grown crops, sometimes the farmers do not know how to grow. Though the techniques are simple, sometimes young farmers do not know how to grow. So then some technological training is required. So how the paddy land could be utilized to cultivate other field crops. There are some structural rigidity issues. Paddy blocks is designed to grow paddy, and some inundation conditions. So then this structure should be made flexible enough to grow other field crops. And sometimes seed material should be available. And the other key aspect is the utilization of agro-meteorological advisories for cultivation decision making. So when yellow season, the water scarcity become a crucial issue, the farmers should know at a very high confidence level the water availability. So they can't simply depend on the water level in the tanks. So they have to know about the forecast, the rainfall forecast, and the subsequent agro-meteorological advisory issued by the Department of Agriculture. So then now, if you take the agro-meteorological advisories issued during last 3-4 years by the Natural Resources Management Center of the Department of Agriculture, each year when the yellow season rainfall is expected to be below normal, they have recommended to grow other field crops in dry zone landscape, especially downstream paddy lands where drainage is good. And now UNDP has started with Department of Agriculture the mapping the soil drainage classes in downstream paddy land, so then farmers can know with high level of technical accuracy where the drainage is good and where the drainage is bad. Then the department recommends to grow other field crops in paddy lands where we expect below normal rainfall during yellow season. Then farmers can easily select where to grow other field crops in the paddy lands. Those kind of developments are essential to get farmers to make their cultivation decisions based on agrometeorological advisory, and also growing new and underutilized crops to fit into the dry zone landscape.
Right, very nice. It's very encouraging to know these things are happening and slowly things being done and the systems are being placed. Thank you very much, Mr. Avaratna. It's quite informative presentation. You put everything together at the end. I thought it's a very good presentation to end this session because you summarized everything in this few minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandima.
Yeah. To the participants, we are getting very late now. So, and obviously our panel is unable to join at the moment, it seems, most of them. So what we thought, we are continuing this discussion in our website. So all your questions we'll post on our website. We'll get the answers from the panel and we'll have our Q&A session in our Google site. We'll send you the links. Please be in touch with us. We'll do it soon. And I think it's time for us to wind up. We are getting very late. But before winding up, I want to thank you, the panel, even though most of them are not here, being very patient. I humbly apologize for the technical delays and some technical issues and the delays. Sorry about that. But overall, this has been a very fruitful discussion. I think more than anything, we have been able to network the group into one table, and we have seen in the chat box and Q&A, there is a lot of enthusiasm created. So please keep it up. Before handing over to the Youth for Climate Action, I want to thank everybody for joining, and also please keep up this enthusiasm. I will end up with the motto of the Youth for Climate Action. Get started, get going. Together we can create impact. Over to you, Shanika, I think, is going to talk to us, right?
Yes, madam. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have reached the end of the discussion, and we think that the ideas discussed will have a positive impact on climate resilience and in promotion of dietary diversity in communities. For this fruitful discussion, we are thankful for Professor Kadambut Siddiq, Professor of Agriculture, Chair and Director of UN FAO Special Ambassador for the International Year of Pulses 2016. Dr. Ajanta De Silva, Director General of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture. Professor Terence Madhujit, Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Peradeniya. Dr. Gamini Samarasinghe, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Randiva Malala Surya, CEO, CBL Natural Foods Cluster. Mr. Sampath Abeyratna, Technical Specialist to the UNDP, Climate Smart Agriculture. Dr. Iroja Caldera from University of Colombo. Professor Saluka Kodiduakku, Dean, Faculty of Science, University of Peradeniya. Professor HMTGA Peterwada, Director, PGIS, University of Peradeniya, and all the staff members. Professor Deepthi Akhandavala, Chairperson, Board of Plant Sciences, Postgraduate Institute of Science, University of Peradeniya. We thank you for your continued support in making this event an immense success. We would like to thank Professor Gihan Jayasuriya, Head, Department of Botany, University of Peradeniya, and all the staff members. Dr. Chandima Ariratna, Senior Lecturer, Department of Botany, University of Peradeniya. Thank you for motivating Youth for Climate Action Group to organize this event as one of a series of activities conducted to raise our voice in climate action. Youth for Climate Action Group, thank you for organizing this informative discussion and coming forward as a young team to make an impact on climate resilience. We express our heartfelt gratitude to all the participants from both local and foreign institutes who attended and shared their views. We sincerely believe that we all have taken a step forward to fulfill our responsibility as one caring entity of this beautiful planet. Thank you so much.